And right now we're going to welcome in Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media, talk some high school hoops. Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, good morning, Sully.
Josh was just saying how much he likes the, what is it, the Golick and Wingo show, the new show? Man,
Okay.
I got to believe Sully and Minnick is right up there.
Well, put the wheels in motion. Put the wheels in motion. Get Mike Gill to, write us up a contract.
There you go.
Get a little bank account going, and we'll see what we can do.
Might have to be a holdout, although I might be asking for too much money.
Well, I think we'll both be asking for too much money, but we'll have to negotiate that.
There you go. What's happening, man? Sorry, I was out last week. I was kind of in the throes of some illness and was laid up on the couch for about 5 days. It was ridiculous.
Well, Mike Frankel did a very nice job, but once again to stepping in and being your DH. So always good, and we're glad you're back.
He's like if he's the DH, he's like Edgar Martinez, man. He's a stud.
Yeah, he's close to Hall of Fame material.
So what's happening on the South Jersey basketball scene? Myself and Mike McGarry were kind of knee-deep in the Cape Atlantic League tournament, so enlighten our listeners to the rest of South Jersey high school hoops.
Well, I'll tell you, this past week and next week being the last week of the regular season, things are kind of coming to a screeching halt, so to speak, before the tournament starts. And right now there's not a whole lot of games out there that you look at that are being played towards a division title or anything along those lines. So teams are kind of just wrapping up the regular season, playing a couple games here and there when just to fill out the 26 that they can get in, and like I said, getting ready for the tournament. And I think last night it was a very, very big game between Camden and Moorestown. It turned out to be a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be when Moorestown knocks off a Camden team who, we had at NJ.com, NJ Advanced Media, as, the 14th best team in the state. And, Moorestown is a team in Group 3 that, I saw them play Trenton Catholic and took them pretty much down to the last 2 or 3 minutes of the fourth quarter of their game before losing. And, to knock off Camden last night, that's a feather in their cap. So, teams are playing some games now to get themselves one final tune-up, I guess, for the state tournament, and it's obviously it's an interesting time of year. It's a great time of year as the tournament is just around the corner.
Break up the Quakers, man. We're usually talking about them in lacrosse and field hockey seasons.
Yeah, they're to look at them, it doesn't, it just doesn't look as if they are as good as they really are. The impression, the eyeball test, you look at them, they really don't have a lot of size, and it just doesn't look like, they're the type of team that could take some of these better teams as far as they have. But, when they get on the floor, they play well together, and they've got a junior by the name of Nick Cartwright-Atkins, who's probably only around, I want to say maybe 6 feet, 6'1", but the kid does a little bit of everything very well. And they shoot the three pretty good, and they get after it on defense. So, there's some teams out there much like them that when the tournament comes rolling around, could win a game or two that maybe a lot of people don't expect them to win. And next thing you know, you're seeing some different teams in the semifinals that you really didn't imagine were going to be there. But South Jersey basketball, it's been a real nice season. There's been a lot of showcase events. There's been a lot of interesting matchups along the way, and all of it obviously done to prepare for what's going to start in in a week or so. So it's much like football season when the playoffs roll around. That's kind of what you're playing for all year. Same goes with basketball right now. These teams are gearing up for this tournament starting on the 26th.
Kevin, how does a team like Camden Catholic look lately? I saw them early in the year, and they kind of got steamrolled a little bit by Atlantic City. How far have they come since the beginning of the season?
They're a top, in South Jersey, they're a top 10 team, and I think they've pretty much been a top 10 team all season. They play, these teams in the Olympic Conference, they beat up on each other pretty much on a daily basis. And when they play the non-league games and the showcase events, they're playing against really quality competition. And, a team like Camden Catholic, who you look at and might say, they didn't play really well against an Atlantic City. That kind of tells you how good Atlantic City really is. And, Camden Catholic's got themselves two pretty good, bookend big guys in the middle in Babatunde Ajiki and Uche Okafor. And you throw in Dominic Dunn, who, is closing in on 1,000 career points there and can shoot the three and take the ball to the basket a little bit. And, they're not a bad team. The thing that will ultimately be their downfall, so to speak, is the fact that they're playing in non-public A, and non-public A is a bear to get through. And I don't think that they're going to have, I just don't think they have the personnel it's going to take to get to that final. But, year in and year out, Camden Catholic is always a team right around 20 wins, if not 20 wins or more. And, they do things the way they've always done things. They make backdoor cuts. They play good defense. And games are usually not in the 70s and 80s. They're usually more in the 40s and the 50s.
Well, Kevin, St. Augustine Prep has to be considered one of those teams that could make a run in non-public A. I mean, they got some great players, obviously Marlon Hargis and the Solomon kid. Do they have enough, you think, where they can make it through a few rounds of that bracket?
When I saw them play against Camden a week or so ago, and what I saw on the floor, I just did not see the same St. Augustine team I had seen knock off Atlantic City a week or so, I guess, prior to that. And, talking to Coach, Paul Rodeo after that game, he had no answers for the way they had played that day. It was almost a complete 180 from what they had been doing up to that point. But now, they're in the Cape tournament, win a game, maybe they get out, if they can get past Wildwood Catholic and kind of, maybe kind of build a little bit of momentum. I think they are a team that can make a decent run in A. But if the team that shows up in that tournament is the team that showed up against Camden, I would have some doubts, because they did not play well that day. And, when you come to the tournament, obviously everybody knows it, it's one and done. You cannot afford to play one of your worst games when the tournament rolls around. Now, if you're going up against a team that's that much better than you, and you simply get beat by a better team, that's one thing. But when you go into a game that you can win, or people may say you're expected to win, or at least on a talent level that you look pretty even, and you play the way they played against Camden, then they're not going to get to a final. So, it'll be Paul Rodeo's job to get that St. Augustine team playing at a high level and get them playing like they had been playing prior to that game. And they lost a tough game earlier this week to Trenton Catholic. They lose at the buzzer. So, they've played some tough teams. They're battle tested. The reasons a lot of coaches will say, we're young, and at this point in the season, your freshmen are not freshmen, your sophomores are not sophomores, and your more experienced guys have to be the guys to put the team on their back and lead them. So Marlon Hargis, Travis Stoll, Charles Solomon, there's three kids at St. Augustine right now that kind of have to put that team on their back and lead them. So we'll see what happens with them down the stretch. But like I said, if they play the way they played against Camden, I don't think they win A. But if they play the way they had been prior to that, and if they get themselves back into a little bit of a rhythm, absolutely, I think they could get to a final. And then obviously anything can happen when that rolls around.
Talk with Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. And Kevin, when you're looking at the public school brackets, any particular bracket stand out to you as one that could really turn into a wild, crazy finish? Maybe get some lower seeds advancing into the semis and that kind of thing.
Well, I talked to Mike when we talked to Mike Frankel last week about the brackets, kind of broke it down. If memory serves me right, and I kind of think I'm thinking the same way. Is that Group 3 is the one bracket that stands out to me. That Timber Creek is the top seed, and I can't see them losing. But if something happens along the road and Timber Creek fails to win, I think 3 is extremely wide open, and your team is in 3 and Winslow as the 11th seed. And when I don't have the bracket in front of me right now, but if memory serves me correctly, I looked at that bottom half of that bracket in Group 3 that Winslow is in, and I can see Winslow getting to the final again. I think in 3, it's pretty wide open. There's some teams in 3. Seneca is the number 2 seed in Group 3, and Seneca was playing extremely well. They knocked off Shawnee, upset them once a couple of weeks back. Problem with Seneca is that they haven't won a game since then. You got a team in Triton, a 15 seed, who will play at Seneca, who may be able to give them some fits. Triton's got a kid by the name of Jalen Collins, goes about 6'6". He's a left-hander. He works extremely well along the baseline. He's got a great turnaround jump shot. He's not afraid to go to the basket, and that there's a 2-15 matchup where I think Triton, could go in there and knock off Seneca, because Seneca has lost its steam. So I think in 3, like I said, 3 is Timber Creek's, but if for some reason Timber Creek throws in a clunker and can't get out, I think it's wide open for anybody.
Well, I know Coach Nelson's an avid listener of the South Jersey Sports Report, so he's going to like that report from Kevin Minnick.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, I went back and, for me, Winslow has been a team in the last several years that was pretty much up and down during the regular season, and maybe, you look at them and you looked for some consistency during the regular season, and it just wasn't there. But towards the end of the year, they get into the tournament. They're maybe not the highest seed in the world, but they find ways to win games. And, I went back and I didn't, to be honest with you, I really didn't realize it, but, they've won the last, I know that they won the last 3 Group 3 sectional titles, but they were a 2 seed 3 years ago when they won, which I thought, I didn't think that they were seeded that high. But the following year, I believe they were a 5, and last year they were an 8. This year they're an 11. So as far as the seeding is concerned, they've kind of taken steps back each year. But for some reason, they pull it together in the tournament, and they knock off teams and they win games. So, when you look at the seeds and you say, where's there a team in there that may be a high seed that, okay, maybe they can knock off some teams and win some games. This year, I am not going to bet against Winslow, because I think Winslow has proven itself over the last couple of years that they can get their act together when it's needed most.
Well, they definitely do play a pretty tough schedule. They're one of those teams that goes out of the way to play some tough games, so that can really benefit you down the line. Like you mentioned with St. Augustine, Atlantic City goes out of its way to play great matchups, so that's really going to help you when you get to this time of year.
Yeah, if you were to break down South Jersey basketball, and you look, and I look at this thing every day, multiple times a day. I keep a book, and I've got every game for every team, and there's certain teams in there. You look at their schedule; they got a ton of wins, maybe 15, 16 wins, or 16-9, 15-7, somewhere in that neighborhood. There's a lot of teams that you look at their record and you say, man, they have a lot of losses. But you look at them, you look at the teams that they played, and they haven't played cupcake teams when they get out of their league. They've scheduled tougher games for the purpose of getting ready for the tournament. And while most coaches will say, we're not into moral victories or a moral victory after a tough loss, when you look back on those games, there's a reason why they were scheduled. And even if a team were to come out of there with a loss, there's got to be things that they've learned from the experience that's got to help them when the tournament starts, when it's one and done, when you have to get on a bus and go to another team's gym and play against, an environment where their fans are kind of going crazy. And you have to be able to make those adjustments and learn from the past experiences. And that's why a lot of these teams play these tougher non-conference games. Now, there are some teams that don't. There are some teams that are in leagues where they're, the number of games that they may potentially have to schedule outside of it is limited. and they don't go after, the try to slay the Giants, so to speak. But these teams that are in there, that play in some showcases, and maybe the results weren't the greatest, but ultimately those games were played for a purpose, and that purpose starts on February 26th. And hopefully, for some of those teams, it pays off.
Great stuff as always, Kevin. Man, your playoff game is on point, buddy. We appreciate it. Hey,
it is the time of year where you have to bring it every day. You cannot take a day off, and you can't. You got to focus on what's in front of you, and that's what I'm trying to do. And it's my goal, like I've always told you. People have stories. I got to tell them. This is all part of the process, and I'm pretty excited for the playoffs. We got one more week left, and then we're going to kick into the playoffs, and obviously it's going to be an exciting 2 weeks of basketball, just about every single day. So it's what we it's what we kind of live for, and you look towards the end of the season, and then you want to see what happens, and you want to see how these teams are, and can the cream rise to the top for teams that have been building momentum throughout the season. So it's an exciting time, Sully, and we'll be there every step of the way.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it as always, man. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.